Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crossroads Stories. I hope you're having a great day. I received an email last night that honestly made my jaw drop. We often hear stories about gold diggers or people dating for status, but this one hits different. It's a story about a guy who had everything a woman could want: financial security, patience, genuine love, but he was treated like a placeholder because he didn't look the part. The email comes from a man named Leo. He's an American who retired early and moved to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He wrote to me to share what happened when his girlfriend decided that looking cool on Instagram was more important than having a good man by her side. She told him, to his face, that she was too hot for him. Spoiler alert, she found out the hard way that hot doesn't pay the bills, and that sometimes the guy wearing the Uniqlo t-shirt is the one who owns the building. If you enjoy stories about instant karma and people getting exactly what they deserve, do me a favor and smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. All right, let's get into Leo's story. Here is what he wrote. My name is Leo. I'm 52 years old, and if you saw me walking down the street, you wouldn't look twice. And honestly, that's exactly how I like it. 3 years ago, I walked out of a glass-walled office in Palo Alto, California, for the last time. I had spent 15 years grinding in the tech industry, writing code for back-end systems that nobody sees but everybody uses. When my company was acquired, I cashed out. I didn't make buy a private island money, but I made never have to set an alarm clock again money. I was burnt out, tired of the rat race, and sick of the exorbitant cost of living in the Bay Area. I wanted heat, I wanted humidity, and I wanted food that tasted like it had a soul. So I packed 2 suitcases and moved to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. KL is a fantastic city. It's this chaotic, beautiful mix of futuristic skyscrapers and old colonial architecture, jungle greenery, and concrete. I bought a nice, spacious condo in the city center, cash, but I didn't tell anyone that. I adopted a lifestyle I call stealth wealth. I drive a modest local car when I need to, but mostly I take the train or grab a rideshare. I wear cargo shorts and plain cotton t-shirts. I eat at mammoth stalls, these open-air roadside joints where you can get the best teh tarik, pulled tea, and roti canai for less than $1. I was living my best life. And then I met Ivy. Ivy was 29, a local Malaysian Chinese marketing executive, and she was breathtaking. We met at a bar in Changkat, a popular nightlife district. She was wearing this stunning red dress, holding a glass of wine like it was a prop in a movie. I was sitting at the bar nursing a beer, wearing my usual polo shirt. When she started talking to me, I was surprised. "You look like you're lost," she had said, her accent a charming mix of British and American influences that many urban Malaysians have. "Not lost," I smiled. "Just observing. We hit it off. Or at least I thought we did." Ivy was vibrant. She knew every cool spot in the city, every hidden speakeasy, every new cafe that had just opened. In the beginning, it was exciting. She was my tour guide to the high life of KL. But looking back, I realized I wasn't just her boyfriend. I was her accessory, and a dull one at that. Ivy was obsessed with what the locals call the Adas lifestyle. Adas basically means high class, fancy, or upper crust. She worked in marketing for a luxury retail brand, and she lived her life as if she were constantly on a runway. Her Instagram was a curated gallery of perfection: avocado toast, infinity pools, and OTD outfit of the day shots. For the first 6 months, I was blinded by how beautiful she was. But as we settled into a routine, the friction started. "Leo, why do you dress like an uncle?" she asked me one evening. We were getting ready to go to Pavilion, a high-end mall, for dinner. "An uncle?" I laughed. In Malaysia, uncle is a respectful term for an older man, but the way Ivy said it, she meant an uncool old man. "Yeah, look at you," she sighed, gesturing at my comfortable walking shoes and khaki shorts. "We're going Din Tai Fung, not a jungle trek. Can't you wear the loafers I bought you? And that shirt with the logo?" "I'm comfortable, Ivy. Besides, nobody cares what I'm wearing while I'm eating dumplings." "I care," she snapped. "People look at us. They wonder why I'm with you." That was the first red flag, waving violently in my face. I ignored it. I changed into the loafers. I wanted to make her happy. The dynamic of our relationship became clear very quickly. I was the financier. She was the director. I paid for the dinners, the vacations to Bali, the weekends in Penang. I paid for her grab rides, her emergency shopping sprees, and eventually, I was quietly paying half her rent because she claimed her salary was delayed. It happened suspiciously often. But despite me footing the bill, Ivy was ashamed of me. She didn't know I was a retired multimillionaire. I had told her I was a freelance IT consultant who lived off savings. To her, that translated to unemployed American living on a budget. She assumed I was scraping by, which made my refusal to buy a BMW or a Mercedes seem like poverty rather than choice. One humid Tuesday night, I suggested we go to Jalan Alor for dinner. For those who don't know, Jalan Alor is a famous food street. It's noisy, smoky, crowded, and absolutely delicious. You sit on plastic stools, sweating in the tropical heat, eating stingray grilled on banana leaves. Ivy looked at me like I had suggested we eat out of a dumpster. EW Leo. No, she said, scrolling through her phone. It's so sticky there, and it smells like smoke. I just got my hair done. The food is the best in the city, Ivy. Come on, let's just be real for a night. I don't want to be real, she said, not looking up from Instagram. I want air conditioning. We're going to that new French fusion place in Bangsar. My friend Michelle posted about it, and the lighting is supposed to be amazing. I don't feel like putting on a suit, Ivy. She finally looked up, her eyes narrowing. You never feel like making an effort. Do you know how hard it is for me? My friends ask about you. They ask what you do, why you drive that little Maivai car, why you don't have a daddickship or a big title. I have to make excuses for you constantly. Excuses? For what? For being a normal guy. For being basic, she said, the word dripping with disdain. I am a high-value woman, Leo. I invest in myself. I go to the gym, I do my skincare, I network. And I'm dating a guy who thinks a highlight of the week is drinking Tay O Ace at a roadside stall. If I'm so embarrassing, why are you with me? I asked, genuinely curious. She softened, but it was a calculated softening. She walked over and adjusted my collar, a pitying smile on her face. Because you're safe, Leo. You're nice. You're manageable. And honestly, I think you need me. Without me, you'd just be another lonely expat melting in the heat. I'm upgrading you. Upgrading me. As if I were a piece of software that needed a patch. The irony was, I could have bought that French fusion restaurant. I could have bought the building it was in. But Ivy didn't value financial freedom. She valued the appearance of wealth. She wanted the logo on the chest, not the balance in the bank. I started to notice how she spoke about me to her friends. We were at a cafe one afternoon, meeting two of her girlfriends, Sarah and Carmen. They were speaking in a mix of English and Cantonese. My Cantonese is non-existent, but I've picked up enough Malaysian slang to understand context. He's so kayam, sayap, stingy. Ivy laughed, taking a sip of her $20 latte. She gestured to me while I was reading a book, assuming I wasn't listening. I wanted to go to the Maldives for my birthday, but he suggested Redon Island. Can you imagine? Domestic travel for a 30th birthday. Maybe he's saving up for a ring. Sarah giggled. Ivy rolled her eyes. Please, if he buys a ring, it'll probably be from a pawn shop. But it's okay. He's a placeholder. Just until I get that promotion and meet someone who actually fits my vibe. You know, someone like Jason Teo. Jason Teo was a local influencer and son of a timber tycoon. He drove a bright green Lamborghini and was famous for cheating on his girlfriends. But to Ivy, he was the goal. I didn't say anything that day. I just turned the page of my book and took a sip of my black coffee. I told myself she was just venting, that she didn't mean it. I told myself that the placeholder comment was just a bad joke. I was in denial. I was comfortable in the golden cage she had built for me, or rather, the cage I was paying for. But the lock on that cage was about to break. The breaking point didn't come in a quiet moment. It came, as these things often do, with an audience. And it started with an invitation to the event of the year. If you have never worn a tuxedo in Kuala Lumpur, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine wrapping yourself in 3 layers of black wool, then stepping into a steam room that is also, somehow, a swamp. That was my Tuesday evening. Ivy had declared that we were attending the Golden Horizon Gala, at a rooftop bar overlooking the Petronas Twin Towers. It was the event of the season, apparently hosted by a skincare brand that sold tiny jars of cream for the price of a used Honda. "You need to look sharp, Leo," Ivy had said, adjusting my bow tie with the aggression of a bomb disposal technician. "There are going to be daddicks here. Celebrities. My boss is going to be there. I look like a penguin who got lost on the way to the Antarctic," I muttered, sweating already despite the air conditioning in our condo. "Stop complaining. You look presentable," she said, examining me like I was a slightly dented package she was trying to return to Amazon. "Just don't talk too much about, your hobbies. Nobody wants to hear about your vegetable garden or how you fix the sink." "Understood. No plumbing talk. Only glitter talk." We took a Grab premium to the venue because Ivy refused to be seen arriving in a regular car. The venue was spectacular, I'll give her that. It was 50 floors up, open air, with the glowing twin spires of the Petronas Towers piercing the night sky right in front of us. The view was $1 billion. The crowd, however, was cheap. Not cheap in money. There were enough Hermes bags in that room to pay off the national debt, but cheap in spirit. Everyone was scanning the room, looking over each other's shoulders to see if there was someone more important to talk to. Within 5 minutes, Ivy had abandoned me. "I see Marcus. He's the VP of branding. You get a drink, stay here, don't wander off," she instructed, as if I were a toddler liable to stick a fork in an electrical socket. She smoothed her shimmering gold dress, put on her camera-ready smile, and vanished into the sea of cologne and hairspray. I did what any sensible man in a tuxedo and 90% humidity would do. I found the bar and ordered a whiskey on the rocks. I stood there for an hour, just people watching. It was actually kind of funny. I watched a group of influencers spend 20 minutes taking a photo of a single cocktail. They had a ring light. Who brings a ring light to a cocktail party? I watched a man in a velvet suit almost pass out from heat stroke, but refused to take off his jacket because it would ruin his silhouette. I was enjoying my anonymity until I realized I needed to use the restroom. On my way back, I spotted Ivy. She was holding court in a VIP booth with 3 other people. 2 women who looked like clones of her, and a guy who looked like he'd been dipped in oil. That was probably Marcus. I started to walk over, thinking I'd introduce myself, maybe make a polite exit so I could go home and peel the tuxedo off my skin. But as I got closer, the crowd thinned out, and their voices carried over the thumping house music. They were looking right at me. "Is that him?" the oil-dipped guy, Marcus, asked, gesturing vaguely in my direction with a champagne flute. "The American?" "That's him," Ivy said. She didn't sound proud. She sounded apologetic. "He looks distinct," one of the women giggled. "Very dad on vacation vibes." "I don't get it." "Ivy," Marcus said, leaning back. "You could have anyone. I mean, look at you. You're Ferrari. He's a Volvo. Safe, boxy, reliable, but you don't park a Volvo in the front driveway, you know?" I froze. A smart man would have walked away. A dramatic man would have thrown a drink. I just stood there, waiting to see if my girlfriend of 2 years would defend me. Ivy laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. "Oh, stop it," she said, swatting Marcus's arm playfully. "Look, I know. He's temporary. It's just convenient right now. He pays the rent, he carries the bags, and he doesn't ask questions. But aren't you bored?" the other woman asked. Desperately. Ivy sighed, taking a long sip of her drink. "But you know what they say. You date the nice, boring guy while you wait for the king to arrive. Besides," she flicked her hair, glancing over her shoulder to make sure I wasn't there, missing me by about 10 feet. "I'm obviously too hot for him. Everyone says so. It's charity work, really. I'm giving him the best years of his life before I upgrade." The table erupted in laughter. That specific, cruel laughter of people who think they're the main characters of the universe. "Charity work," Marcus wheezed. "That's good. You're a saint." "Ivy." Something inside me clicked. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. It was the feeling of a server finally crashing and realizing you need to just reboot the whole system. I walked up to the booth. The laughter died instantly. Marcus looked like he'd swallowed an ice cube. Ivy's face went from amused to horrified in a nanosecond. She scrambled to stand up. "Leo, we were just talking about charity." I finished for her, my voice surprisingly steady. I heard. No, you misunderstood. It was a joke. We were just... Ivy, stop, I said, holding up a hand. I smiled, and I made sure it was a genuine smile. They're right. The silence at the table was louder than the DJ. What? Ivy whispered. Marcus is right, I said, nodding at the oily man. You are a Ferrari. High maintenance, expensive to keep running, and honestly, not very practical for everyday use. I looked at Ivy. And you're right, too. You are too hot for me. Ivy blinked, confused. She was waiting for the fight. She wasn't expecting agreement. Leo, don't be dramatic. I'm not. I'm being logical. If you're too hot for me, and I'm just a boring Volvo, then I'm clearly holding you back from your destiny with. I gestured around the rooftop. Whatever this is. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the credit card I had given her for emergencies, which she was currently using to pay for the table's bottle service, and gently took it out of her hand. I think it's time I let you go find that king, Ivy. I'd hate to be the reason you missed out on an upgrade. Are you breaking up with me? Here? Now? Her voice rose an octave, attracting looks from nearby tables. Everyone is watching. I know, I said, looking around. Ideally, I'd do this in private, but since you like an audience so much, I figured this was appropriate. I finished the last sip of my whiskey and set the glass down on their table. Good luck, Ivy. And Marcus. I looked at the guy. The bill for the bottle service is on you. The Volvo has left the building. I turned around and walked toward the elevator. My heart was pounding, but my step felt lighter. Behind me, I heard Ivy screeching my name, but I didn't stop. As I stepped into the elevator and the doors closed, cutting off the view of the humid, glittering skyline, I loosened my bow tie. I was sweaty, I was single, and for the first time in 2 years, I was completely free. I just hope I could get a grab before she made it down to the lobby. If you think breaking up with a social media-obsessed girlfriend ends when you walk away, you clearly haven't seen an Instagram story in 2025. By the time I woke up the next morning, in a hotel because I refused to go back to the condo that night, Ivy had already spun the narrative. I made the mistake of checking her profile. There was a black and white photo of her looking out a window, holding a coffee cup with tragic elegance. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to trim the dead branches to let the tree grow. Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag know your worth, hashtag upgrading." I almost choked on my hotel croissant. Trim the dead branches? I was the root system keeping the whole tree alive. But that's the thing about people like Ivy. They live in a reality distortion field where they are always the protagonist and everyone else is just an obstacle or an ATM. She didn't text me to apologize. She didn't call. I suspect she was waiting for me to panic. She probably thought that without her guidance, I would be lost in Kuala Lumpur, unable to order food or navigate the city, eventually crawling back to beg for forgiveness. Instead, I went house hunting. I had been secretly browsing listings for months, a guilty pleasure I hid from Ivy because she only wanted to live in branded residences. You know, those high-rises with names like the Imperial Vortex or Royale Infinity, where the lobby looks like a Dubai hotel, but the walls are paper-thin. I wanted dirt. I wanted trees. I wanted a place that didn't require an elevator key card. I called a real estate agent named Mr. Tan. When I met him, I was wearing my standard uniform. Cargo shorts, a faded t-shirt, and flip-flops. Mr. Tan looked at me, then looked at the rusted Paragua Maivai I had rented. I love Maivas. They're the indestructible tanks of Malaysian roads, and he clearly thought I was wasting his time. "Mr. Leo," he said, sweating in his polyester suit, "this property in Damansara Heights is very significant. The owner is looking for a serious buyer. Maybe we should look at some condos in Cheras." "Let's just see the house, Mr. Tan," I said. The house was a 1970s bungalow. It wasn't flashy. The paint was peeling slightly, and the garden was a jungle. But it had good bones, high ceilings, and it was quiet. It smelled like rain and jasmine, not car exhaust. "I'll take it," I said, standing in the living room. Mr. Tan blinked. "You need to check with your bank for a loan? Foreigner loans are hard to get right now." "No loan," I said. "Cash. Can we close in 2 weeks?" Watching Mr. Tan's face transform from condescending pity to best friend was worth every penny. Moving in was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. I donated all the furniture Ivy had picked out, uncomfortable velvet chairs and glass tables that showed every fingerprint, and bought things I liked. A big leather armchair, a massive wooden dining table. I even started a vegetable garden in the back, though I quickly learned that Malaysian monkeys are essentially furry organized crime syndicates who will steal your chilies just for sport. For the first time in years, I was lonely, but I wasn't exhausted. About a month later, deciding I needed to talk to something other than the monkeys, I signed up to volunteer at a local animal shelter. Ivy would have hated it. It was loud, chaotic, and smelled distinctly of wet fur and bleach. That's where I met Sophia. She was kneeling on the concrete floor, wrestling a very muddy, very happy golden retriever mix into a bath. She was wearing scrubs that had seen better days. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun held together by a pencil, and she had a smudge of dirt on her cheek. "Hey," she yelled over the barking. "You're the new volunteer? Grab the hose. This guy thinks he's a fish." I grabbed the hose. We spent the next 20 minutes soaked to the bone, laughing as the dog shook water all over us. "I'm Sophia," she said afterward, wiping her hands on a towel. "I'm one of the vets here." "I'm Leo," I said. "I'm retired." She didn't ask retired from what, or how much money do you have? She just nodded. "Cool. You have good energy, Leo. The dogs like you. Usually, they try to bite the new guys. I think I smell like old ham." I joked. "That probably helps." "Ham is a very attractive scent in this industry," she laughed. A week later, Sophia asked if I wanted to grab dinner after a shift. "I know a place," she said, "but you have to be brave." "I've survived KL traffic in the rain," I said. "I'm brave." She took me to a night market in SS2. It was hot, noisy, and crowded. Everything Ivy despised. We sat on plastic stools that were dangerously low to the ground. "Okay, American," Sophia said, slamming a spiky, green, football-sized fruit onto the table. "The ultimate test. Durian. For those who don't know, durian is the king of fruits. It is also banned in hotels and airports because it smells like Jim's socks fermented in onions. If you puke, you pay," she grinned. I watched her pry it open with her bare hands, revealing the creamy yellow flesh. She took a bite and sighed happily. Ivy would have rather eaten broken glass. She would have been filming herself looking disgusted for TikTok. I took a piece. It was custard-like, sweet, savory, and weirdly addictive. "It's good," I said, surprised. Sophia's eyes went wide. "Wait, you actually like it? You're not just pretending to be polite." "No, really. It's like garlic ice cream, but in a good way." She laughed, and it wasn't the polite, tinkling laugh Ivy practiced. It was a loud belly laugh. "Okay," she said, wiping a tear from her eye. "You pass. Most expat guys I date just turn green and ask for a burger." We sat there for 3 hours, eating with our hands, sweating in the heat, talking about everything and nothing. I looked at Sophia, no makeup, eating durian, wearing Crocs, and realized she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. I didn't tell her about the money. I didn't tell her about the bungalow in Damansara Heights. To her, I was just Leo, the guy who was good with dogs and didn't fear the funk of the durian. And for the first time since I landed in Malaysia, I didn't feel like a wallet. I felt like a man. Meanwhile, in a land of glitter and delusion, Ivy was finally living her dream. Or so it seemed on Instagram. She had found her upgrade. His name was Darren, and he was the son of a property tycoon. He drove a McLaren the color of a highlighter pen, and his primary personality trait was posting pictures of his watch next to his steering wheel. From what I gathered through the grapevine, which in KL's social scene operates faster than fiber optic internet, Ivy was miserable. Darren was the Ferrari she had always wanted, but he treated her like a rental. He'd parade her around at events, call her babe in front of his friends, and then ignore her for the rest of the night. He never paid for her meals when it was just the two of them, expecting her to be grateful enough for his presence. She had traded the boring Volvo for a supercar that came with an empty gas tank and no key. My friend, an expat who runs a local pub, told me he saw them one night. "Mate," he said, shaking his head. It was painful to watch. The guy spent 30 minutes talking to the bartender about the carbon fiber trim on his car. Your ex just sat there, stirring her drink, looking like she'd rather be doing her taxes. While Ivy was learning that high-value men often come with high-maintenance egos, my life had become wonderfully, beautifully simple. Sophia and I fell into a comfortable rhythm. We'd spend weekends hiking the trails at Bukit Gasing, getting covered in mud and mosquito bites. We adopted another dog from the shelter, a three-legged tripod named Wobbles, who now ruled my house with an iron paw. We cooked together. I taught her how to make a decent American-style burger, and she taught me that putting a fried egg on top of instant noodles is a gift from the gods. One evening, we were sitting on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange. Wobbles was asleep on my feet. "I've been thinking," Sophia said, her head resting on my shoulder, "about the future." "Oh yeah? Are you finally going to let me build that ridiculous cat hammock jungle gym in the living room?" She laughed. "No. Well, yes. But something else. If this gets more serious, we're going to need a bigger place. My apartment is tiny, and you're renting this place, right? We need a garden big enough for at least 5 more dogs." My heart did a little flip. She was planning a future with me. A future with more dogs. This was it. The moment for full disclosure. "I have to tell you something," I said, my voice suddenly serious. "And I'm worried it's going to change things." She sat up, her expression concerned. "Are you secretly married? Do you have a weird rash? Are you a serial killer who only targets bad drivers on the federal highway?" "No, none of the above. Though the last one is tempting," I smiled. "Sophia, I don't rent this house. I own it." She blinked. "Oh, cool. The landlord must have been happy to sell. And I'm not a freelance IT consultant scraping by on my savings." I took a deep breath. I retired from the tech industry in Silicon Valley. I'm comfortable. Very comfortable. I waited for the shift, for the questions about numbers, for the look in her eyes, to change from affection to calculation. I'd seen it happen before. Sophia just stared at me for a long moment. Then a slow grin spread across her face. "Wait," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Does very comfortable mean we can afford to buy the premium, grain-free kibble for Wobbles? The one with the salmon and sweet potato?" I burst out laughing, a wave of relief washing over me. "Yes, off. We can afford the fancy kibble." "Awesome," she said, and then she leaned over and kissed me. "For the record, I don't care if you're a billionaire or a beach bum, as long as you're the guy who cleans the dog poop out of the garden without complaining." "That's me," I said. "The poop king." It was perfect. She didn't care. But of course, the world is small, and Kuala Lumpur is even smaller. A few weeks later, Sophia's veterinary clinic hosted a charity fundraiser. It was a proper event, so I put on a suit, a well-fitting one this time. I also made a sizable, anonymous donation. Unfortunately, the real estate agent who sold me my house, Mr. Tan, was there. He spotted me from across the room and scurried over, his face beaming. "Mr. Leo, my biggest client," he boomed, loud enough for half the room to hear. He grabbed my hand and started shaking it vigorously. "So good to see you. How is the Damansara Heights mansion? Are you enjoying the pool I told you about?" I saw a woman standing near Mr. Tan turn around. It was Sarah, one of Ivy's best friends. Her eyes went wide, first looking at me, then at Sophia on my arm, then back at me. I could practically see the gears turning in her head, the gossip forming on her lips. The next day, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Leo, it's Ivy. I heard about your new house. I think we need to talk." The tables, it seemed, had officially turned, and I had a feeling the Ferrari was about to try and run the Volvo off the road. I didn't reply to Ivy's text. In my experience, responding to an ex who suddenly realizes you have money is like feeding a stray cat that you know has rabies. It doesn't end with a purr, it ends with you getting bitten. But silence, unfortunately, is not a deterrent for Ivy. It's a challenge. 2 days later, I was having my usual Saturday morning breakfast at a traditional Hainanese capicium in the older part of town. This is a place with marble-top tables, ceiling fans that wobble dangerously, and uncles reading newspapers while smoking cigarettes in the alley. It is the antithesis of Instagrammable. The lighting is fluorescent, and the plates are plastic. I was happily cracking a soft-boiled egg into a saucer when a shadow fell over my kaya toast. "Leo? Oh my God!" I didn't know you still came here. I looked up. It was Ivy, but it wasn't the Ivy I knew. Gone were the Louboutin heels and the bodycon dresses. She was wearing denim and sneakers and a white t-shirt that looked like it had been distressed by a designer who charges $400 for holes. She had a canvas tote bag slung over her shoulder that said "Save the Turtles." I'm pretty sure the only turtles Ivy had ever cared about were the ones on a tortoise-shell sunglass frame. But okay. She was cosplaying as a chill girl. It was terrifying. "Hello, Ivy," I said, dipping my toast into the egg. "What brings you to this side of town? Did your GPS break?" "Haha, very funny," she said, pulling out a plastic stool and sitting down without an invitation. "I've actually been getting into, heritage culture lately. Finding my roots. It's so grounding." She looked around the shop with a grimace, clearly trying not to let her bag touch the floor. "So," she started, leaning in and putting on her best vulnerable doe eyes. "I've been thinking about us, Leo, about how I push you away." "You didn't push me away, Ivy. You publicly auctioned me off as a charity case." "I was insecure," she insisted, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I retracted it to grab the pepper shaker. "Darren, the guy I was seeing? He made me realize what a good man looks like. And it's you, Leo. I miss how simple things were with us. I miss you." She paused for effect. "And Sarah told me you bought a place in Damansara Heights? A bungalow." Ah, there it was. The real reason for the denim and the sudden interest in heritage culture. "It's a fixer-upper," I said casually. "Lots of termites. The roof leaks. Honestly, it's a money pit." "But you bought it cash," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with an avarice that no amount of natural makeup could hide. "Leo, why didn't you tell me? We could have built an empire together. I have such a vision for interior design. I could have helped you." "Ivy," I said, putting my spoon down, "you didn't want to help me build an empire. You wanted to wait at the finish line and complain that the ribbon wasn't silk." She recoiled, looking hurt. "That's not fair. People grow. I've grown. I'm ready to settle down now. I'm done with the party scene. I just want a quiet life. With you." It was almost impressive. If I hadn't known her, I might have bought it. She was offering me exactly what she thought I wanted, a humble, supportive partner. But she was about 2 months too late and several $1,000,000 too transparent. "I'm seeing someone, Ivy," I said. The chill girl mask cracked. Her eyes narrowed. "Who?" "That vet girl. The one with the frizzy hair." So, the stalking had already begun. "Her name is Sophia," I said, standing up and dropping a few ringgit on the table for my bill. "And she doesn't care about the bungalow. She doesn't even know the square footage. She just likes that it has a big yard for the dogs." Ivy stood up too, abandoning the act. "Dogs? You're going to turn a multi-million-dollar property into a kennel? Leo, that is so wasteful. You need someone with taste. You need someone who knows how to manage your assets." "I'm managing just fine," I said. "Nice seeing you, Ivy. Love the tote bag. Very convincing." I walked away, leaving her standing next to a table of uncles who were watching the drama with great interest. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next week, Ivy went full detective. I don't use social media much, but Sophia does, mostly to post pictures of dogs needing adoption or the occasional hiking selfie. Sophia showed me her phone one night while we were making dinner. "Hey, do you know an Ivy_style_ official?" she asked. I groaned. "Yes, that's her. She's watched every single one of my Instagram stories for the last 3 days," Sophia said, amused. "And she liked a photo of me from 2018. That's a deep dive. That's thumb cramp territory. She's trying to figure out why I chose you," I said, chopping carrots. "Did she figure it out?" Sophia asked, striking a goofy pose with a spatula. "Is it my raw animal magnetism or my discount Crocs?" "It's definitely the Crocs." But Ivy wasn't just lurking anymore. She was seething. I heard from mutual friends that she was telling people Sophia was a gold digger who had trapped me. The irony was so thick you could cut with a knife. Ivy couldn't comprehend that a woman might like me for me. In her world, value was transactional. If I was with Sophia, Sophia must have a scheme. And because Ivy couldn't understand it, she decided she had to destroy it. She needed to prove that she was the superior choice, the Ferrari that I had foolishly parked to drive a beat-up wagon. She started showing up at places we frequented. Not the Capitium this time. She wasn't going to degrade herself with plastic stools again. She showed up at the high-end grocer where I bought my steaks. She showed up at the park where we walked the dogs. She would stand just far enough away to be seen, looking immaculate, posing for invisible cameras, try to remind me of what I was missing. But the real confrontation happened a few days before Christmas. Sophia and I were at Pavilion Mall doing some last-minute shopping. The mall was crowded, decorated with massive crystal chandeliers and fake snow. It was beautiful, chaotic, and loud. We were walking hand in hand, laughing at a terrible sweater I had just bought when the crowd parted. Ivy was standing there, and this time, she wasn't alone. She had brought reinforcements, her mother. If you know anything about Asian tiger moms, you know that this was the nuclear option. Ivy had brought the heavy artillery. She marched toward us, her mother trailing behind with a look of severe judgment, and I knew that the chill girl phase was officially over. It was time for the final showdown. If you have never been stared down by an Asian mother in the middle of a luxury shopping mall, consider yourself lucky. It is a spiritual experience. You feel your ancestors flinching. Ivy's mother, a woman with hair sprayed into a helmet of iron compliance and a handbag that cost more than my first car, looked me up and down. Then she looked at Sophia. Then she looked at the giant, squeaky rubber chicken Sophia was holding, a Christmas gift for Wobbles. The judgment was so thick you could have spread it on toast. So, Ivy's mother said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise of the mall's Christmas jazz band. This is the upgrade. Hi, I'm Sophia. Sophia said, beaming and extending a hand. She didn't seem to realize she was currently in a gladiator arena. Are you Ivy's mom? Nice to meet you. Ivy's mother ignored the hand. She turned to me. Leo, Ivy tells me you bought a bungalow in Damansara. Cash. I did, I said, stepping slightly in front of Sophia. Good investment. And yet, she gestured vaguely at Sophia's comfortable sneakers and the rubber chicken. You are walking around with this. Ivy is willing to forgive you, you know. She is willing to help you fix your image. You have status now. You need a woman who can match that status. Not a village girl. I felt my blood pressure spike. I was about to say something that would probably get me banned from the mall, but Sophia beat me to it. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, but a genuine, confused chuckle. Village girl. Sophia smiled, looking down at her outfit. Auntie, I'm a veterinarian. I spent 8 years in medical school. I save lives for a living. What does Ivy do? Pick filters. The crowd that had gathered, because in Malaysia, Kipo, nosy, culture is a national sport, audibly gasped. People were actually pausing their bubble tea orders to watch. Ivy stepped forward, her face flushing pink under her foundation. Don't you dare talk to my mother like that. You think you've won, don't you? You think just because you trapped him with your low-maintenance act, you're special? He's only with you because he's afraid of a real woman. He's afraid of being challenged. She turned her gaze to me, her eyes wet with angry tears. Leo, look at her. She's plain. She's boring. She's going to embarrass you at gala dinners. I was the best thing that ever happened to you, and you threw it away because you were insecure about me being out of your league. Out of my league, I repeated. I looked at Ivy. She was objectively beautiful. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect dress. She was a statue. Cold, hard, and hollow. Then I looked at Sophia. She was wearing a t-shirt that said positive vibes only. She was holding a rubber chicken. She had stood up to a dragon lady without blinking. She was warm, she was brilliant, and she was real. Ivy, I said, keeping my voice calm. You still don't get it. You think league is about how good you look in a photo or how many daddicks you know. I took Sophia's hand. You said you were too hot for me, and I agreed with you. But I didn't mean you were too beautiful. I meant you were too much heat. You were exhausting. You were all surface-level shimmer with nothing underneath. You want a fan club, not a partner. I gestured to the crowd, to the mall, to the empty luxury that surrounded us. You belong here, Ivy, in a place where everything is shiny, expensive, and fake. I don't want hot. I want happy. I want real. And frankly, I think Sophia is the one who is out of my league. I'm just lucky she likes dogs and old retired guys. Ivy opened her mouth to argue. but her mother put a hand on her arm. The older woman was smart. She knew a losing battle when she saw one. She gave me one last withering look, a look that promised I would never be invited to her Chinese New Year open house, and pulled Ivy away. "Come, Ivy. We are leaving. This is a waste of foundation." We watched them disappear into the crowd, a streak of designer fabric and indignation. The crowd around us dispersed, returning to their shopping. The show was over. Sophia looked at me, then looked at the rubber chicken in her hand. "Did you just call me out of your league in front of half of Kuala Lumpur?" she asked. "I did." "Good," she grinned. "Don't you forget it. Now come on, Poop King. We have to buy this chicken and get out of here. I'm craving laksa." Huge shout out to Leo for sharing that story. I think a lot of us can relate to feeling like we have to perform or upgrade ourselves to be worthy of love. But Leo is proof that the right person will love you for your cargo shorts and your weird hobbies, not your bank balance. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm find more people who need to hear this. And let me know in the comments. Have you ever dated someone who thought they were too hot for you? How did that end? Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay real, everyone.